How are you?
I'm good.
What's up?
I hope you can see me. I
Yeah,
seem to
I
be
can.
very dull and dim here for some reason.
No, I can. I can clearly see you. I can see you very well.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Rachel, let's begin with you telling about yourself and what exactly is that what you do to everyone who's watching.
Right. So, my name is Rachel Jayaseelan, and I am a psychologist consultant. I work here in Bangalore, and majority of the clients that I work with are young adults. So, social media is very much in that domain because I've heard a lot of instances where their self-esteem is related to it, and when this topic came up, I very much wanted to be a part of it so that I could contribute from my own personal experiences as well as from my work with clients as well. But I work predominantly in the domain of anxiety, depression, counseling, stress management, etc. My main group is young adults. So that's what I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. That perfectly goes with what we're dealing with nowadays, with compared to social media and its indulgence. So,
Mm.
I think I would want to ask to directly to the question that what do you think are the factors that involve social media influence? Like, what is it that we contain into that we're not realizing in like I would just want you to give a brief discussion about what social media indulgence is about.
Okay. So we spend a lot of time on social media without us realizing it itself.
Yeah.
And one thing which I have seen is people build an increasing tolerance towards it. So what would have been like an hour of usage a few months back has now increased to 3, 4 hours of usage. And this involves a lot of mindless scrolling through social media as well. So I'm going to include that also as being constituent of social media usage. It doesn't have to be active usage, it can also be passive usage as well. And the first thing that I would like to begin with is this aspect called as self-representation. And that's what we actually connected on this topic called as
Yeah.
self-representation.
Yeah.
So what happens is social media, there is this platform. So be it Instagram or Facebook, etc. There is this platform, and there are a lot of theories which speak about how the interaction happens, and there's one which resonated very strongly with what we are going to be discussing about. So what they say is that social media is a platform, and it's like a stage for performance, and there is an actor and there is an audience,
Yeah.
and then we perform a certain role. Now, in order to survive on that platform, we have to project an identity that correlates with what we think others are also looking for. And how do we know what others are looking for? And that's when we get that validation, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's a like or a comment or a dislike, somewhere we are receiving a validation for what we think is acceptable by the group that we want to belong to. And
That's
when we
absolutely
get a
correct.
certain kind of a feedback, that's the external validation. But what we do is we internalize some of it, and that becomes a part of our online self. So now there is a real self, the me who's picking up the phone. And once I take up the phone and I get onto social media, there is this online self which is maybe very different from who I actually am. So
I
what
agree.
happens, Priya, is over a course of time, the more different this online self is from your real self, that starts creating the negative influence on our mental health, because we realize we are so far away from this persona that we have created, but we have created that persona through the validation we receive from this community. We all have this need to belong, this need
Yeah.
to be loved, this need to be
Exactly.
validated. We all have it, right?
Exactly.
But this is like this world that we live in that is very different from, it's almost like a practice that we want to practice for our real lives, but in the
Yeah.
process of doing so there is so much of dissociation from who we really are and that online self, and that difference is
Yeah.
what creates the negative influence on our mental health. So
Yeah.
that becomes It could be the amount of time that you spend on social media itself. It can be the people or the community that you tend to belong to, right? So we all have our private accounts, but there are some, even in the private accounts, we put out this impression that we want to create for
Exactly.
others to see, because we believe
Exactly.
that others are putting out the same thing, so we want to be a part of the in group, right? We don't want to be this outsider where we are part of this community which puts up pictures of their everyday lives, and then I
Yeah.
want to put up a picture of a cat. So
Yeah.
we
Like
don't
we
want to
want
be
to.
that person.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we wanted to be related to the audience we actually want to bring it out to.
Yes, definitely. So
Yeah.
we do have a need to belong. Now that's a need that before social media came in, we were validating it in our everyday experiences, right? I have friends, I have
Yeah.
family. So that's the real platform where the validation has to happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when people have maybe some um, the it actually has more of a negative influence when you go very specifically to social media looking for it. But that
Exactly.
happens a lot of times as well, right? So we don't feel good about ourselves, and then we put up this really good picture of ourselves after a very strenuous workout, and there's a whole bunch of comments after this, and we feel good about ourselves for like 5 or 10, 15 minutes, and then we come back to our real self again, where we do not feel good about ourselves. And the bigger this difference, the more the negative influence there is. And those are some of
Exactly.
the factors as well. I would say the more time that you spend, one, the community in which you spend, two, the kind of content which you put out there as well. Sometimes there are times when people just use online, so I mean, social media to, follow up with important, relevant aspects of everyday life. So
Yeah.
that's different.
Yeah.
But when you're projecting an image of yourself, how much of that is actually real to
Yeah.
what you believe is acceptable to even you? That's
Exactly.
some of the things that you can actually take into consideration.
Okay. So like you just mentioned that we develop ourselves into a persona. Like sometimes we are what we are, and we kind of believe in changing ourselves into something else or someone else, or believing into something else that we don't really believe in or we've not heard about. Because I think I have had these instances where I did not believe in something or I did not know about something, but I kind of tend to believe it and actually adapt it into myself because it was right there on social media, and it was actually forwarding around people that actually I looked forward to. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
myself started believing into that. So is it like we develop into someone that we are not, or we are, it's just a layer that we are actually fluctuating from one side to another, and we are not realizing where we are actually caught up. So how do we deal with this? How do we actually self analyze that, okay, this is something where I need to draw this line, or this is something where I need to indulge into this, but maybe with facts and figures and a lot of things
Okay.
altogether.
So, the more time that you spend on social media definitely has an impact on whatever you're talking about, right? So,
Yeah,
let's say I spend about 4 to 5 hours on social media. Now, this is not a large number. If each of us, even us in the audience, if you
yeah,
were to just go back and check your analytics, you'll be very surprised as to how long you spend on
exactly.
social media.
Yeah,
In fact, a couple of weeks back, I had this challenge with this friend saying that, I don't spend that much time on social media because I actually have client sessions throughout the day.
yeah,
And he was like, okay, there is this app which checks your actual number of logging hours on social media. And I'm like, I'm absolutely not going to cross an hour because realistically in my mind I don't see myself having that span of time of,
exactly.
I believe it's 1 hour on social media, but how that 1 hour accumulates can actually be mind blowing, right? This could be
Yeah,
while you're walking to the kitchen or walking
exactly.
downstairs to the vehicle. It could be something like that.
Yeah,
And
like
at the
it's
beginning
crazy.
when I checked, I was close to 3.5 4 hours on social media, which I
You
couldn't
need to
fathom,
know
like, how,
about.
when was I
Yeah,
doing this? Was I asleep? Like,
yeah,
when? But that's
exactly.
actually what happens. So the more time that you spend on social media, this is the online self that I was talking to you about, right? So now we are playing a role. You're playing a role on social media. And it is
Yeah,
that role which is getting feedback. It is that role which is getting validation. It's that role which is feeling good about itself. And we take back certain elements onto the online self, not to the real self, right? We don't.
that's true.
So there is two personas here that I'm talking about. One who you really are, and one who you project on social media. So when we receive a validation for, let's say we dress up really well, it's a nice, pretty looking blue dress, and someone comments there saying, "Oh, blue is your color," and then I start uploading more of pictures
Yeah,
where I'm wearing blue.
yeah,
Now that keeps receiving immediate validation. Now something else which I would like to bring up here, Priya, is in online platforms, we receive immediate validation, which is unlike how it is in real life.
real life.
In school, for example, we wait an entire set of months before we receive that pat on the back from the teacher who says, "Good job."
That's true.
And parents, they wait for an entire 1 or 2 years before they say, "Okay, you know what, you're good at academics." But
Actually,
that's not the case in online
yeah,
platforms. We put up a picture within a couple of seconds, right? See, even right now, let's say someone is able to relate to what we are talking about. We would immediately receive a heart, which will go floating up in the
exactly.
air. That's validation. So
Exactly.
then I receive like this input which says, "Hey, what I'm doing is right. What I put out there is acceptable." So I make that a stronger part of my online self, not my real self, because
That's
I
true.
know that's not who I am. But
Yeah,
I want to keep receiving these instances, this feedback.
yeah,
And the more time that I spend on social media, that aspect becomes stronger, right? I'm playing a role for a huge part of my day.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
when we break off and we feel a void, the restlessness that comes in when you know you have to log in again to check if someone has given a comment
Yep.
or has shared your post, like how many shares do I have, how many people have responded, like
Yeah.
what are the impressions. These are all, like performance markers which social media has somehow given us, and the immediacy of it has made us so hooked on to it, right? I
Exactly.
would rather spend time with a person who gives me a chocolate for every time I say something good than with
Yeah.
someone who tells me, "You know what, you be good for a whole year and you get a chocolate."
Yeah.
So
That's
social media is like this ready-made sweets that is just thrown out to you.
yeah.
And you would realize it when you cut off from social media for a while and then you check and then you analyze yourself and see, how long am I able to spend away from it? Do I get restless? Do I keep, is the phone the first thing I reach to? Is Instagram the first thing I log into in the morning just to check how my previous status is
I am
doing?
I'm the biggest example of this right here. I think I do that all the time, and that is the reason I wanted to actually talk about this. And I think there's so many people who relate to it. Like we
Yeah.
just jump onto our phones, like we just want to. I have like 2 minutes of free time, and I just look at my phone, and I think it's
Yes.
it's yeah, like we don't realize it while we are doing it, but if we try to cut it out from our lives, I think we'll actually get to know where we are actually standing with this. Like, is it actually affecting us or not?
Yep. So if you see the hierarchy, what's happening now, probably a few years back, we would call our friend and find out what's going on in their lives. Now we would know what's going on in their lives, and if we want, we would call them. Otherwise, we would just leave a comment or a like on their post.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so online relationships are slowly replacing real relationships.
Personal
But
relationships, yeah.
you will not get the warmth from online relationships that you can get from actual relationships, right? But so look at what you're replacing. You're replacing authentic, real time relationships with people who know you for who you are, and you're relying on relationships and validation from people who you do not know. And
Exactly,
the larger the community is, you do not know any of them.
exactly.
They may be part of your successes or the end result of a story, but they're not part of the journey, right? You're not part of their journey, neither are they part of your journey. But we are so happy to say that we have 4,000 followers or 10,000 followers. Who are these people? We do
Yeah.
not know them, but that is where we are receiving our validation from.
Yeah.
And we want it. It's almost like an addiction,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I'll ask you the question this way, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think people get addicted to liquor?
I think
What do you think they receive from it?
I think there are various answers to this, Rachel. Like one is where people would just enjoy, indulging themselves
Mm.
into it. One is maybe they're trying to escape from something else. Like they're
Yeah.
trying to escape from a bad heartache, like they had a breakup, or they're not feeling good, or sometimes they just they just want to feel away from all these feelings that they're feeling, and they
Mm.
want to have this particular mindset, and where they can actually chill and not do anything and actually be in another
Mm.
space. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. So I think that might be the reason.
One of few of the reasons, but that also translates whatever you said right now also translates to social media.
Yeah.
It is an escape from actual reality. We are
Yeah.
living very different realities on social media,
Yeah.
right? People see the decked up picture of a person. They
Yeah.
don't see the heartbreak.
Yeah. True.
They probably see this picture of a person who says, I am done with him, I am over, I'm
Yeah.
living my new life, like freedom. I saw someone says freedom, right?
Yeah.
So they see that, they don't see the heartbreak, and no one is willing to share the pain or the misery in their life. Even for that, Priya, you'll be surprised, there is actually communities where there are people who share their pain. There are people who have pages where they only talk about their pain, but they receive validation for their pain also.
Yeah.
So, is that
Yeah.
the right kind of validation? So, yes, mental health support groups are wonderful. I feel like they're doing a great job. I'm a part of a lot
Exactly.
of groups where I can see people doing really good work for being there for each other.
Yeah.
But what I want to bring in also is how much we want to change of ourselves when we are online.
Exactly.
And I can tell you that the break that you take from social media would also work the same way when you cut off from an alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
experience the same amount of restlessness, the
Yeah.
same kind of triggers would cue you in to try and use it again. You
Exactly.
will have this fear that
This urge.
you're going to miss
Yeah.
out on something. All of that
Yeah.
it'll all be the same.
Yeah. No, I
It's
I
an
totally
addiction,
agree.
social media addiction. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of perpetuates this fact that we are trying to, come out of face-to-face conversations. Like we don't like them anymore. I mean, it's
Mhm.
with me as well. Like I mean, this will be like a huge example where I don't like talking on the phone, but then I'm here where people are already looking at us, and it's like it's just maybe we have been brought out to this situation where we're not where we never realized that okay, we were getting into this. Like I
Yeah.
never knew that I wasn't a call person because I was, but then I tend to actually become someone who is very comfortable talking on a text or an Instagram DM, or like that.
Yes.
Like personally, the personal connection is not where a person is standing in front of me, but the personal connection is now when I'm DMing someone, or I'm texting
Mm.
someone, or so
Mhm.
that connection, that human to human connection, I think is going away. And I think social media plays a very large role into this, and we just don't realize it.
We don't. It's like I said, I saw someone is agreeing with me there.
Yeah,
Addiction is the right
the
word
right
for
word.
it.
Yeah,
It is the right word for it. There are instances now. So if you see the even the kind of concerns that I'm working with in with my clients, the nature of the concerns whenever social media is involved, there's a gradual change. Now it's
yeah,
like he broke up with me over a text, or I got to know she has moved on only from social media. So
yeah,
what has actually happened to real authentic relationships? And Okay, so let's just put a pin on it, and I want to shift to mental health itself. One of the main things we as clinicians, psychologists emphasize on for a person's recovery from any kind of mental health concern is social support, real
Yeah.
time social support.
Yeah.
That's our priority. It's not medication, it's not therapy. Yes, therapy, medication can help, but social support is so important, especially in a culture like ours where it's supposed to run in our blood, right? But somehow we are like taking that part of us out. And in a collectivistic culture like ours, it's supposed to come easier. We're surrounded by people the whole day. We're supposed to be surrounded by
Right.
people the whole day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
somehow, I think the truth is hurts more in person, but the truth when it comes to this false self that we project online is easier to take, which
Easier.
it's just like taking a teaspoon of sugar online, whereas it might be a pinch of salt when it comes to the real time relationships. And we are definitely breaking away. I can see the quality of relationships going down.
Yeah.
If I want to go out on a date, the priority would be to click a picture and put it up online,
Exactly.
and both are doing it.
Yeah.
Right, you want
Yeah.
to tell the world that you're happy rather than spending time to tell each other that you're happy.
Yeah.
This is
Completely.
definitely declining the quality of relationships, and it's about time that we take a self check and see how much we are addicted. So I
Yeah.
want to like challenge all our audience today, just go take the addiction test, right? How
Yeah.
long can you keep away from social media? Can you do it for 5 hours at a stretch without checking in? How restless do you get? Is that the first thing you check in the morning? Is it the last thing you check in the night?
Yeah.
And what happens if you receive a dislike from a particular person? If you put out a YouTube video or a message and someone does not agree with your comment, what happens to you? Are you constantly worried about it? So all of this would tell you that yes, you do have some amount of addiction, and it's better to have an intervention now than much later, because where we're drawing on our validation from is not the right space.
Yeah.
That's not how it is in the real world. So
Yeah.
we are probably just cheating ourselves by the more we expect it from social media.
Yeah, yeah, I think we're taking the easier road here. Like, even if it's from the one it's coming from, or from for the one it's going to, it's easier both ways. I am dropping a text because I couldn't feel comfortable in that situation of calling or uh, going face to face to talk about a conversation that was important. I think it was easier for me to drop a text, but yes, this is where we're not realizing that emotions come through, feelings come through, where we're just kind of dealing with a very, very simple method here. And I think it's
Yes.
also, yeah, and I think it also kind of brings it down to refining what we actually are. Is it, I mean, what do you think about it? Like, do we actually refine ourselves when we, come out on social media? Like you just, like you mentioned that, you are trying to be someone else because we are trying to gain that validation. So, how do we refine ourselves into a persona that actually we don't realize or we don't get into, where we just think that what we're doing is good, or what we're doing
Hmm.
is perfectly all right, and I am going through information, I am not looking at the facts, but I am trusting social media for this, because
Hmm.
we see
Hmm.
a lot of people just talking about things without facts and figures. So what is it that actually makes people trust social media so badly and so massively that we just don't that they don't realize? And I'm sure it's not consciously, it's some of the percentage of the people, they do not even know that they're indulging into all of this.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I think the the tendency to trust also has come in here surprisingly with the anonymity of the audience, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere we do know the truth. We know
Yeah.
who we really are,
Yeah.
and it's just easier. Don't we all look for a quick fix in our everyday life? I have clients who come and tell me that I'm going to take one session with you and I hope I feel better.
Yeah.
and or they come and tell me that this child has really low intelligence, give him a pill and make him better in a day. We are not okay with long-term medication. Even let's say even Ayurveda and homeopathy, very few people go towards that because it's long-term. We
Yeah.
want something which is immediate. We
Yeah.
want to see immediate effect, and
Yeah.
our real self is very scared to face the truth,
Yeah.
right? So what happens is when we get onto a social platform, we all grow through this thing called a social comparison, right?
Yeah.
We compare
I
and we
agree.
grow.
I agree. Yeah.
But what are we comparing, our real selves or our online selves? If you're comparing our online selves, then that's not the growth that we are internalizing here. Okay,
Exactly.
so what's important is if we get onto social media and there is active or passive usage, and and through the process of social comparison, you see that, okay, this is an interesting idea that I would like to try for myself.
Yeah.
This is a new method for me to grow. This is a new platform. Oh, I didn't know that this online support groups existed. This is an interesting idea for my work, for my profile. Okay, so if you're going to take it and become a better you, that's all right. If you're actually growing. But
Yeah.
what happens
Yeah.
with the majority of the people, Priya, is that they compare and they feel sad.
Yeah.
They compare and they feel inferior.
That's right.
There is an emotion there.
Yeah.
Are you focused on your growth, or are you focused on sadness that you are not there yet? Now, remember, what you're seeing is the result of a journey. It's not the journey itself. We see a person holding up a certificate, and you're like, oh my God, he graduated. What about me? But he's gone through it. We don't know that.
Exactly. He's
It's
experienced so many
curated
situations.
content.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you compare to grow. And if you're growing your real self, that's great. But if
Yeah.
you're only going to feel worse about yourself and feel inferior, not good enough, and if you feel like you're not worthy, all
Yeah.
of these emotions, if that's what it's generating, then what's the point? Why do you want to go back there and
Exactly.
receive more of it?
Exactly.
But we
Like I
have
think.
this trusting nature with the mass,
Yeah.
because social
Exactly.
media, yeah, is the mass. The
Exactly.
majority have spoken.
Yep. And I think it very much affects us on this platform. Like every platform, I must say, not just Instagram, Facebook, every platform that actually validates that information. It's just, yes, we have the positives of our social media. We know where it's actually giving us these positives, where it's giving us information, awareness, and people are coming out and helping themselves into adapting themselves as a new person or a human being. I think self analyzation is very important. It comes down to the first point where we should realize, okay, this is where I'm going. Once you do it, because if we just keep saying, I have actually been this person who's always been saying that I'm going to stop using social media, I'm going to stop it, and keep my phone on the side, and you just don't get to know. Like, you unconsciously, you just pick your phone up, you'll end up scrolling, looking for something else, and end up scrolling for another 1 hour, and you get back to the same topic again, and you're like, okay, I did not find anything related to that, because you weren't focusing, you weren't putting attention to what actually you were looking, but you were more interested in what other people are doing and what is happening around.
Yeah, you do. I'm sure some of us know that social media platforms all have algorithms, right? So
Yeah.
they know what you're searching for,
Exactly.
and they're going to throw up more suggestions related to your areas of interest that is going to keep you hooked on to the platform.
Yeah.
I know we're using Instagram right now, but
Exactly.
it's
But
based on your search. So I might have searched for like one immunity booster product like about a month back. But by now I already have about 20 plus suggestions all in my my feed.
yeah.
I did not search for them, but there is an algorithm, not just here.
Exactly.
Any platform, they use an algorithm. YouTube, it
Exactly.
uses an algorithm, right? So it's almost as if someone is, that's how the platform grows. And yes, there is definitely a positive side to the use of social media as well.
Yeah.
We are not negating that. Conscious usage, conscious, responsible usage, active usage, no passive scrolling. All of this has, in fact, I think there's this research, it's a very interesting research, Priya, which says that passive usage has a strong correlation with low body esteem in women as compared to active usage. So if active usage, which means I want to go check out your profile. I have 3 specific accounts I want to check. I want to go there just to make a post and get out. That's an active usage. I go with a purpose.
Yeah.
Passive scrolling is just, mindless, you're just moving up and down. That has a very with low body esteem in women. So there
Yeah.
itself, there is a
I
link
agree.
with, and it's a mental health concern. So
Exactly.
conscious usage, responsible usage is very important.
Yeah. So what would you, I mean, I'll just come down to what would you suggest that we can indulge in? And, we talk about context collapse, like, the collapse, because there are so many amount of people that are online at a point of time, and so many of them are looking at the same kind of thing that you are. Maybe if you're, for example, you're looking for mental health posts. And I remember when I started Concept Narrative, I used to have I started on researching and looking up to these mental health posts and things that people are not a lot aware about, and how people are helping, how pages are helping them. So now I continuously keep having these kind of posts in my explore, because that is what I was looking for. So there's this huge amount of people, huge amount of population who's already looking at so many things. So what do you think, what concept context collapse means exactly? Like, can you just frame it very briefly for me? Because I think I also looked up for it, but it wasn't clear to me that what actually is it, and how is it actually, you know, developing us into someone we are thinking we are not.
Okay. So on one side, I did I mentioned the algorithms, which is
Yeah.
almost like it's like artificial intelligence. It knows
Yeah.
what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Now, when we go online, we do decide to uh, join in with a community where there are similar interests,
Yeah.
and we tend to have a better wavelength with people where we it's like we are joined, it's a community of interest. We are joined together not because of who we are, but by what we are interested in.
Yeah.
So a conscious choice when it comes to I think before you even get onto social media or before you log in, I just stop and think for a minute, why am I doing it right now? What is the
Yeah.
reason I'm logging in right now? Am
That's
I
true.
am I going with a specific intention
Yeah.
in mind? See, we shouldn't negate the aspect that it is a platform for free expression. Now, for
Exactly.
example, you and I both have pages on Instagram, and it's growing our thought process of how a particular concept or a construct has to be,
Yeah.
right? And there will be a point where interests will meet, and
Yeah.
that is the point where we can see how the community grows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that has to be one line of focus as well,
Yeah.
right?
That's
This
right.
could be, I follow a lot of mental health pages where they have completely, even if it's mental health, we have very different lines of thought.
Definitely.
So I
Definitely.
need
Yeah.
to have, I need to know when to cut off.
Yeah.
But there is this aspect of curiosity. I don't know anything which better describes it as curiosity that kills the cat, right? That's this is right here.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
more we want to be a part of things, right? I think we're touching upon a lot of things here, Priya, because somewhere we also have this idea that the more people we follow, the more will follow us back. There is
Exactly.
this one
I
group which
agree.
thinks that.
I
So
agree.
people do go on because followers is a status now. It becomes a new badge or a status that you tend to show off with.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
no longer values. It's no longer real qualities. It's followers. It's impressions. What are these even, right?
exactly,
But so there is
exactly,
this one way we are trying to grow, okay?
exactly.
And so because of that, the conscious usage also goes down. We are not consciously picking up. We are just
Yeah,
picking up people who we think will follow us back.
exactly.
But you and I are talking about conscious usage, it means that, okay, this person's work really interests me.
Yeah,
Somewhere along the lines, we have similar thought processes about what we are working in. So I
exactly.
would love to follow this person's page to grow my own
Yeah,
ideas, as well as see how I can contribute to their community as well in any way, either through interacting with their content.
yeah.
That would
True,
limit,
true.
but without any barriers at all, just blindly going forward is a big no.
Exactly. Like there has to be a limit. There has to be a
Definitely.
point where a pattern where you analyze what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah, no, I
Yes.
think it's very important. Yeah, and I think it has become important to analyze and to come to a point where we should realize and we should participate in realizing that okay, this presentation of ourselves is not healthy. We are not going into a healthy direction. We are dealing with something, and we should realize that. And I mean, yes, it is important.
And the more time we spend on, so social media usage has become so easy, right? Like earlier, I'm pretty sure when you and I started even Facebook accounts,
Yeah,
we had to log in the computer.
yeah,
We had to wait till the end of the
yeah.
day when our parents are allowing us to use the
That's true.
computer,
That's
and
true.
then the whole
Yes.
broadband and dial up. I sound so ancient right now,
Yeah,
but that whole
yeah,
process, and then we get to spend 15 minutes or so, it's like luxury, and then we're off
exactly,
social media.
exactly.
That was healthy. But now it's all apps that you can just, the click
Yeah,
of a finger, it's there on your phone. It's become
exactly,
easy. So yes, user friendliness is there, but how friendly has it really been to you and I? Social
yeah,
media usage. I'm pretty sure we would have had at least one day when we would have felt a little sad about something which is going on in our lives by something we had seen, and
yeah,
this whole grass is green on the other side, and all of
exactly.
these concepts. And I
Big
think
time.
it's become a platform for hate commenting as well, and
Exactly.
dislikes.
Yeah, and that takes a toll on people's mental health, not just the one it is coming out to. Sorry, Rachel, I think there was some connection problem or
I
something.
right. So
I'm
I'm
back.
back on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it is very important, and I think the virtual context we're going into, we're not realizing that factors of importance and the amount of importance it actually has given us, and the freedom to post or put out everything is kind of not freeing us. It is actually bringing us to a point where we are bound into this platform, and there's a huge fence around us where we cannot jump out of it, and we have to. It's very important that we do to self analyze
Yes.
and realize. Yes,
Yes.
that's right. That's all I had for you, Rachel. I mean, I loved this conversation. I
I did
completely,
too. Thank you so much.
yeah, I swear. And the whole, yeah, and the whole criteria of this conversation and bringing this to life has been amazing, amazing. And I'm really glad to have known you.
Thank you so much,
Thank,
Priya. It was a
thank you
pleasure.
so much for coming.
Thank you.
Same here.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye, Rachel. Bye.